But you never know that you could. And when you feel that way, ain't it good, good dancing in the red and gold. And dancing in the red and gold.
What's up, Faithful? Welcome to the 49er Faithful UK Live. As always, I'm your host, Paul Hope. And joining me, once again, the one, the only, Lee Gowland.
Hey, mate, how you doing? Did you enjoy our show the other day?
What was it called again, mate? I thought you might want to plug that one.
The greatest show ever.
The greatest show ever. Well, it feels good to be back. And as I said to you off air, it did feel pretty surreal. I think it's the first pod on our group I've missed in about 2 years.
Yeah, that's about right. Yeah.
Bit of disclaimer, start of the season, Lee. Promised Friday night would be a football-free, no podcast night. And then I forgot that we were playing on a short week. And you and Nadji were like, let's record the pod on the Friday. And I thought, that makes perfect sense. Apart from the fact that I had dinner plans. So, yeah, driving to football coaching on Saturday morning. It popped up on iTunes, the greatest show ever. And it didn't disappoint. So if you haven't already caught the latest episode of the 49er Faithful UK pod, go to wherever you get your podcasts from and listen to the terrific trio of Gowland, Carra and Evans as they break down all things of Seahawks.
Gareth's surname is Ellis, not Evans.
Ellis. Well, there you go. So you're listening.
You've already forgotten him.
I know. Well, a little birdie told me it might have been his idea to forget me. So no hard feelings, Gareth. But yeah, Lee, it feels good to be back. First time I've spoke to you since that win up in Seattle, buddy. So
yeah,
it felt pretty good.
It did indeed, mate. And to be honest, it was quite strange when we were recording the podcast and you weren't on. And we actually talked about it before we started the recording. And I think it was Nadji turned around and said, it's been 2 years since Paul's missed a podcast. So it was unusual. And it's a good job that we're not recording this Friday. So, I mean, there's going to be both me and Nadji missing from the recording, the preview game for the Chiefs game. So we'll just put that out there now. Nadji's at work. And believe it or not, I'm on taxi duty taking our Ben and my brother Steve to the airport so they can fly to San Francisco and watch this game at Levi's on Sunday. So that's what I'm doing tomorrow night. So yeah, that's going to be a little bit strange. My sister-in-law asked as if I was gutted that I wasn't going. And I said, well, not really, because I'm excited for our Ben. Because obviously our Ben's getting to go out there. And they're going to go there for the full 10 days and do the kind of tour that we'd had planned that I was going to go out and do. So obviously the Chiefs game, they're going to be doing the Warriors game on Friday night, Stanford on the Saturday, followed by the Chiefs on the Sunday. The Tuesday, they're actually flying down to LA. They're going to go and see the Lakers on the Wednesday night. And then Thursday, they've got the Vikings at the Rams game, Thursday night football. Fly back Friday, they've got another Stanford game on the Saturday. And then they finish it off with the Cowboys game on the Sunday. Now, they could have gotten a San Jose Sharks game in. However, it starts exactly the same time as the Cowboys game. 1 o'clock on the Sunday afternoon. So
yes.
They can't get to that one.
So they're going to the Chiefs and the Cowboys game?
Yeah, both games.
Wow, wowzers. If I'd known he was going to the Lakers game, I'd have borrowed him my Lakers jersey and my Steph Curry jersey, which Red Jet Shell is thrown at the screen. It's well documented, Red Jet. I'm a fan of LeBron. I'm a fan of Steph Curry. But that, I mean, I think back to this time last year when we were preparing for the London watch party, but we all had one eye on flying out to San Francisco. And like you said, we did Stanford, we did the Niners Buccaneers, we did the Golden State Warriors. And I was blown away that we managed to squeeze those in. So, I mean, that trip sounds amazing. I was going to get to it later on in the show because we actually have 6 people, Red Jet Shell, from the UK faithful at Levi's this week. Isn't that right, Lee? We've got your Ben.
Actually, no, it's not. It's not right. We've got more than 6. Because there's other people who are out there that didn't tell me that they were going. They either didn't tell us that they were going or they'd already bought the game day tickets. So I couldn't sort them out. But there will be 6 UK members all sat together up in the gods facing the sun. So hopefully it's not going to be too hot for them. but there's definitely going to be 6 sat together, and then a few dotted about the stadium as well.
So I did see on Facebook, there is other social media platforms, our good friends Dawn and Martin are sat in Weatherspoons because TGI's isn't open, as Martin eloquently put on his Facebook. But Martin and Dawn are flying out, I think, tomorrow. But Martin's going to the game on his own. So we always ask for people who are going to the game to fly the flag, to tag us on social media. How crazy does it feel, Lee, that this game is here? Because as you all know, we have an hour meet up in Newcastle, which we will get to. But when Brad from the Chiefs group reached out to me, Lee, and said, "Shall we do something for this game?" It seems so far away.
Yeah.
Yet the NFL season, as much as we are giddy for it to start, it's flying for me, buddy. Is that how you're finding it? That we're at week 7 already?
I mean, we're almost halfway through already, and it's just crazy. And I think we come into this game, the rematch of the Super Bowl, and we never thought we'd be at this stage of the season where we're thinking, well, actually, this game's a critical game. We need to continue to win. We didn't think we were going to be 3-3 going into this game. We thought we might, at the very most, have lost one game only, so we should have been sitting pretty, but as it happens, we aren't. So yeah, it's come around really quick. I think the silver lining is the week after we've got the Cowboys, who are just completely atrocious at the moment. I mean, they got absolutely spanked in their own backyard on Jerry Jones's birthday for a scorigami of 47-9. Dak Prescott getting benched late in the game, although I don't think they really benched him. They just put Cooper Rush in because the game was beyond winning. But we'll have to see how the fallout of that goes, because Mike McCarthy's still in the job, and I can't believe that. I would have thought Jerry Jones would have given him the bullet after that game.
Well, we will talk about that in a moment, but this caught my eye. So apparently Gareth, on the review, when he asked you, what did you think of Brock Lee? He heard broccoli. So maybe there's a new name for Purdy in there. So I thought that would tickle your fancy. So I'm just catching up on the chat. Redjet Shell has said that she is at Levi's on Sunday. So if she's privileged to run into the UK faithful, she will wish us all safe travelling graces. You'll see the flag. As Ty has put there, Ty's put something about the flag. I've just seen the comments. Yes, Ty, it isn't unwritten. Paul Hope shouts this from the rooftop. If you go into Levi's and you've got a flag, I want you to fly that baby, and I want the photos. So I know Martin has definitely got the flag, because did you see his social media post, Lee, where he said packing the essentials?
Yeah, so I saw that. So I saw that. He did have a bit of a panic on because he's ordered a new flag and it hasn't been delivered yet. And just an update on JonnyDel. So JonnyDel is getting his times mixed up. It's not like our brothers and sisters over in the States to mix up the time change. So he's going to be on in about 25 minutes. So if you want,
just flip the show around.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Do we want to go into some of the trades first, or should I do the unboxing of the card?
I think we should go into the trades, because yesterday's trades were quite interesting, because I was in the office yesterday. So when I'm in the office, I tend to commute, go on the train. So Middlesbrough to Darlington, half an hour commute. And Tuesday, Aaron Rodgers, good friend of the 49ers, is always on with McAfee. And it times it for my commute home. And I don't know if you saw, Lee, that he was joined yesterday by his new
I saw that
wide receiver, which makes you think, hang on a second, this trade was only announced on the morning in the UK and he's already there. So maybe we go down that rabbit hole first, buddy. What do you reckon?
Yeah, I thought it was a strange trade, to be honest. I didn't think the Jets needed a wideout. I don't think that's the problem. I know things have been said about Rodgers throwing it away 2 games running, where he's had it in his hands and he could have won the game. But to be fair to him, it certainly wasn't his fault against the Bills. I mean, that's just pretty crap by the wide receiver, which is ironic because I've just said they don't need a wide receiver. That's not the problem. I think, I just don't think the wide receiver is the problem. Obviously, they've got the cap space, so it made no difference to them. But I'm wondering what's going through Devontae Adams' head, because he wants to win a ring. He's not going to get that at the Jets. No way is he getting a ring at the Jets.
Do you not think it's essentially a 1-year kind of rental, and they're just kind of going all in? He wasn't happy in Vegas. He's upgraded from Adams' point of view. He's upgraded the QB. I mean, I love a good stat, Lee. On the McAvee show yesterday, they were showing all the stats of, Rodgers and Adams together. And we've seen this movie as 49ers fans. We talked about that infamous Monday night game where Juice scored with about 47 seconds left on the clock. And Rodgers just marched up the field, and it was just Rodgers, Adams, and then a Crosby field goal.
Yeah. I don't think it was 47 seconds. I think it was 27.
It was, I was going to say.
It was 27. I mean, I remember watching the game and saying, there's no way he's got enough time to do this. And then our defence just fell apart.
Well, if you cast your mind back, we talk about the explosive plays the Niners defence have given up this year. Lee. It was one of them, I think, straight out the back. Adams was free and Rodgers chucked it up there. I know we're a Niners show, and I know a few people don't like Rodgers, but that man can't half throw a Hail Mary. I mean, he's 4 he's thrown, and even that one. You talked about not needing wide receivers. I think he's got his 2 in Lazard and Wilson, but Williams did himself no favours. And then when afterwards, when Rodgers was like, you ran the wrong route, and then the next day it's like, we've brought in Davante Adams. So the rich get richer in that regards. Yeah. Well, they tried to put him up for trade, but at that point, no one's giving you anything for that. So, but it'd be interesting.
Did they release him?
I'm not sure.
No, I don't think they did. I'm getting mixed up there. They didn't release him. There was a rumour they were going to release him. That's what I'm getting confused about. But I thought it was a strange one. Fair play to him. He's gone back to a quarterback that he enjoys getting the ball from. Obviously, Aaron Rodgers is going to feel a little bit more comfortable because he's got somebody he can trust. But the Jets aren't going anywhere this year. Famous last words.
So the reason I wanted to talk about that trade as such, people tune in thinking, hang on a second, but the Jets I have a soft spot for after the late Dan Harris, founder of Let's Talk Sports. Obviously is sadly no longer with us. And when I was watching the rumours unfold yesterday, I'll get his name wrong. There's a guy on ESPN who does a daily show. He's been there 25 years, massive Jets fan. And apparently McAvee had sent him a text with the eye emoji. And he totally misread it. He just thought McAvee being McAvee. But that was Pat giving him the heads up that something was happening. So he went on the McAvee show yesterday and he was like, he's a similar age to me. And he was bemoaning his age, Lee, and he was saying, you're of a certain age where you get the hot news before you go live and you didn't realise it was the hot news, but he was there with his Rodgers 8 jersey on and he was like, I was out on the Jets this morning because we'd lost to the Bills, but now we've traded for Davante Adams. And it made me smile because as NFL fans, we're all guilty of looking at our own team and thinking, right, we're just a tweak away from going on a Super Bowl run. And for the second week in a row, the New York Jets have come off a bad defeat when they've got Super Bowl ring hopes, as you said. They fired the coach week 1. That didn't work. Week 2, we'll just trade for Davante Adams. I mean, God knows what will happen next week, Lee, if they lose. I don't know where else they'll go, buddy. Maybe they'll start trading some of the content creators. I don't know. And Ty Alston, that is correct, buddy. He just wants to put on record that he's never mixed up our times. And we've done a couple of shows together. But and Red Jet Shell is getting very excited that Martin may have a flag. So I'm sure with Red Jet, if you get your hands on one of them, you'll fly it high and wide and proud. So what did you make of the Adams trade then, Lee? Do you think he's going to be the piece that they need, or do you just think it's kind of a bit of a distraction?
Definitely not, but I was more interested in what it caused, the cause and effect of the Davante Adams trade. Obviously, a few hours later, we saw Amari Cooper traded to the Bills. And I think if you look at the whole context of actually getting back to the Super Bowl and potentially winning it this year, you have to look at the Bills and think, well, they've just stocked up on good talent, a wideout. They're playing well already. I think they're playing better than what we thought they would this year. We thought they started to regress. Obviously, Allen's playing with a bit of a chip on his shoulder because everybody turned around and said he's the most overrated quarterback in the league. So I thought that was a good move for the Bills. And I think it makes them dangerous in the AFC and potentially puts them in line to be there or thereabouts at the end of the playoffs to either get through the championship game or get through to the Super Bowl. So it was interesting to see that. And then obviously there was a trade, I think, before the Davante Adams trade. not so high profile, but obviously teams are starting to stock up on areas of weakness. So the Seahawks brought in a defensive tackle from the Jags, Roy Robertson Harris. Not exactly a stellar name. He doesn't really stand out. I don't think he's a marquee player the way it was reported in on NFL, but you can see it's happening. And obviously we've got 2 weeks max away from the trade deadline. It's probably this time of year or this time of the month where John Lynch is going to be fielding a lot of calls and making a lot of calls. So it's going to be interesting to see if anybody goes out or somebody comes in.
So Jedi put there that the Jets were a Hail Mary pass away from getting beat by 10. And he's put this move is for the fans, basically a stave off a revolt. And that's why he's staunch, let Kyle, because as he said there, it can get worse. And just to answer this question, it wasn't Rich Eisen, it was Mike Greenberg. So I dropped him a follow straight after because his passion for all things Jets just resonated with me, Lee. And he was pretty much saying, you can hate on my team. I don't care. I do me. You do you. And I think that's quite nice of a message because, like you said, stepping out of this bubble sometimes, 49ers fan, always tune in the content creators that we follow. But sometimes watching the big hitters like McAvee, Rich Eisen, this afternoon, I was watching Kittle and Debo because we've got competition, Lee. I forgot Debo's got his own podcast. I'm waiting for the call up, but Kittle was pretty awesome on there. And they were talking about the trades like us. I mean, I dropped the Seahawks trade in our Facebook group when it happened, and a few people were like, "It's not a big move," and I was like, "I'm not sharing it because I felt like we should be doing it." You've hit the nail on the head. We're at that stage of the season where teams are trying to get better because mathematically nobody's eliminated yet. I said mathematically because I'm waiting for you to go, this is where the Cowboys have been eliminated, and all the Cowboys fans start. But
no, not at all, mate. But yeah, I mean, it is the time of year when this starts to happen. And look at the 49ers. Who could we possibly bring in? And I know you had good fun at saying that I started the rumour about Max Crosby, which I didn't. I just liked a particular tweet. But it's a good shout. Yes, he's going to be expensive. But if it means just bringing them in for one season and letting them go, if we win the Super Bowl, it's worth it. Because that's the type of thing the Rams did.
Yeah,
like
for context,
2-3 years ago when they won.
So you said there, as you could tell, I had a bit of time waiting for my connecting train. And Steph Sanchez had just tweeted out something like, who's responsible for the Max Crosby rumours? But your tweet was immediately above that. That was the only reason why I was like, right. Lee Gowland started this. And you were like, hang on a minute, Paul, I don't want anyone in my mentions. But it was just a bit of tongue-in-cheek. So,
funny enough, just after I retweeted the one that I saw about Max Crosby, and I can't remember who, it must have been one of the content creators. The very next tweet I saw was that one from Steph.
Yeah. And Steph Sanchez, friend of the show, great at what she does. So I think what she was trying to say was, hang on a second, we all get a little bit giddy on 49ers Twitter, for want of a better word, but you said it off air. If we got Crosby, it's a home run, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
Bosa and Crosby in one defensive line going up against a quarterback. So I don't think the Raiders would trade to us. I don't know the logistics of the cap.
It all depends on what's offered. And like I said, I mean, at the moment, we've got quite a big cap space. Obviously, we're keeping that for Brock. So it's how they can do it. So if they can do it, then it's worth doing.
According to Ty, he says there that Debo is trying to schedule us together, but they need a big budget for big guests. And Red Jet Shell has put that she heard they don't have enough resources to accommodate. I'm sure we could work something out. And going back on topic, the comment here, don't know if the Raiders would be willing to trade Crosby to us.
I think it probably is too expensive, to be fair. But it's a nice pipe dream. And like I said, I mean, they can work something out because Max Crosby, I know he's still quite young. In fact, didn't he come in the season after Bosa? So he's only been around for 4 years. He might want a ring. He might see this as an opportunity to get a ring. And you have to remember, some players go through the entire career and never ever reach a Super Bowl. Some do it once and lose. So any chance you can get to get a ring, even if it means just redoing your contract and taking a whopping pay cut just for that one season, then it's probably worth it for the players. I
See,
know if I was a player, that's what I would do.
Yeah. I've seen a few comments here about Reddick, but I don't think he fits our defence. And I don't know whether the character would be an issue. I mean, before we move off Crosby, I was watching some of the NFL Top 100 because, I don't do other sports. And they showed the Trent Williams and the players talking about Trent Williams, and Max Crosby was gushing in his praise for 71. He was like, he's a unicorn, he's an inspiration. And that got me thinking, maybe, 2 and 2 put together could be 4, but, we'll wait and see. I don't think we make any moves just yet, Lee. Do you? In the trade market, Niners? I think we tend to do our business
I think it all
to the
depends on
deadline.
Sunday's result.
All right.
I think it'll depend on Sunday's result. Will it depend on Sunday's result? If we lose, it's not the end of the world. It's not the end of the world. It's a tough game. We haven't beaten them for the last 5 games. I personally thought before the season that going into this game it was going to be a close game and we might turn them over with it being at Levi's. We might still do it. I don't know. But I think going into the Cowboys game, I think we're lucky that it's at home this year. Because like I said, at the moment the Cowboys are just absolutely reeling. And I'd be looking to not leave it until the last second to make a trade.
Well, Jedi is confident we're going to win. He has the force flowing through. So, and then he's followed it up with Now, for those people tuning in, as Lee said at the start, we do have a very special guest today. We'll get to the introduction a bit more when he joins us. Bit of communication breakdown, which is quite ironic because I'm really looking forward to tonight's show because a few people have asked Lee when we started our channel for things like what this guy does, play breakdowns and looking at game tape. And Nadji was kind of shoehorned into that, but obviously he's been mega busy. So the fact that you said a couple of weeks ago that you could get JonnyDel's on, and he's someone that I watch, I know he's good friends with people in the chat, other content creators. So I must admit, when I joined you in the backstage about 10 to, when I thought, he's not here yet, and I thought we might have the same issue, because didn't this happen with Brian Davis? Not English Brian Davis. American Brian Davis.
Yeah, so, I mean, it's happened with Jonny, it's happened with Brian Davis, it's happened with Ted Talks Ball.
I was about to say Ted Talks Ball,
Yeah, he kind of does it quite often. But yeah, I mean, it's just one of those things. You get the times wrong.
And Larry Kruger.
Johnny's trying to do it on his... and Larry. He's trying to do it on his dinner hour. So... let's cut him some slack there. He'll be on as soon as possible.
Absolutely delighted he's joining us. So, I mean, the Larry Kruger one, he reached out to me the other week and he was like, can you jump on 6 p.m. Saturday? And I was thinking, 6 p.m. Saturday? That sounds too good to be true. UK time. No.
Yeah, 2 o'clock in the morning.
So it was 2 o'clock in the morning. So as you can imagine, Tracy shut down that request, understandably. But as Ty put there, bless him, Ted confuses the time in his own state. But you have something that I think these good people will want to see, don't you, Lee? Yeah.
So, I mean, full disclaimer, I'm the most miserable person you ever likely to meet. I don't get excited about anything, or very, very few things. So I was going to do an unboxing. I'm saying I'm going to do an unboxing. So I received my Spector Sports Art card. Hasn't even come out of the original shipment packaging yet. So I'll need to open that up. So yeah, it looks like that. So I'll go ahead and do this. And do you have any link to something that shows what the cards are? Because honestly, I'm going to open up this and it's going to mean nothing to me.
Well, that's why Jordan
other than the number on the back.
That's why Jordan reached out to me. So I think Nadji was a little bit confused. And as Ty has put here, willpower unboxing time. Now, we have seen your video, Ty. We've seen Wayne Humphrey's video, and I always get excited about everything, so no pressure at all, Lee. But yes, I do have the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 variations of said card. And as Red Jet Shell has put there,
proven to be
that is not true.
Difficult to get into.
Well, that's why when I did my unboxing, Lee, I took this beautiful box out of the plain brown box because I had visions of what happened to you happening to me. So
So you get a card in the back.
And apparently, Lee, Ty Alston says he's seen you get excited when you've had 2 beers in your hand. But
right, so I'm just conscious that Johnny's joined us in the background there, and he doesn't have long. So I've getting as far as that. But what we'll do, we'll leave that until after we've spoken to Jonny, yeah?
You've done this on purpose. So anyway, people, hang fire on the Spector card. As Lee has alluded to there, we're delighted to be joined by a very special guest today, a 49ers fan who provides play breakdowns, analysis of every 49ers game, specific player evaluations, as well as teaching the X and O's of football on his very own YouTube channel, JonnyDel's Football Academy. I will let you bring Jonny onto the stage, Lee, because it is a great honour that we welcome him to the 49er Faithful UK Live.
Hey, Jonny, how are you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. Sorry for running late on there. I do have a little more
problem.
time now because getting in a little bit earlier. I mixed up my time zones again. I don't know.
You're not the first to do it.
Well, I've lived in this time zone for almost 11 years. You would think when you said 12 Pacific time that I knew it was 2 o'clock my time. And for some reason I was thinking 3. So I am so sorry.
Right, where are you based, Jonny?
I'm in Alabama, southeast of the United States, the deep south, where people talk different here. So it's fun.
Yeah, you've got that little twang about you.
Do I? So I'm normally from the Pacific Northwest, so around Oregon. I grew up in Oregon, went to school in Seattle, and so I moved 3,000 miles to be here. And so when I got here, like I was talking to a lady on the phone last night who's very country Alabama, as we put it.
Right.
She's like, well, we're gonna be out there hopefully by the end of this week, and we'll have some time to do that. Because I was looking at a new central air unit, and so she was really sweet. But yeah, it's great. You guys sound awesome.
Oh, thank you.
Fantastic, thank you. Normally people can't understand a word that we say. They ask for translators when both me and Paul on, because we're from the northeast of England and we have our own twang, so to speak, our own accent, and people tend to find it difficult to pick up on too, especially with me because I talk so fast as well, and I have to keep on slowing myself down so people can actually hear what I say. Before we get onto the football, I've got a quick question. Is that Isildur behind you? The Shards of Narsil.
That is Anduril behind me. Yes.
Anduril. Yeah.
Yes. Every once in a while, people ask about it. So for me, it's always a symbol of the strength of man to hold back evil when it is in the proper hands. And so it's a reminder for me: be a good man.
So I'm a huge Lord of the Rings Hobbit fan. Love J.R. Tolkien. Got a load of statues just over to me left there in my little shelving unit, and one of them is the Shards of Narsil.
Oh wow!
On the actual statue, I like it's set out in the movie. So yeah, I spotted that one straight away, and I thought, yeah, I recognise that. That's Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, and my wife actually has Hadafang, which is Arwen's sword. She's got that in her office.
So don't upset her, whatever you do.
Yeah, no, definitely not. It is real steel. It's real stainless steel.
Yeah.
It really does have an edge on it. I was a little surprised by that when I got it in.
Yeah,
I bet. So, Jonny, do you want to tell everybody about what you do, who you are, where they can actually find you on the socials? We've put your YouTube link in the description to the show. I've put your website link in there as well. For everybody that's watching, I actually met Jonny. It's actually a month ago today. I know that because I have to get up at 2 o'clock in the morning again to go to the president's meeting. So it was in the middle of the night where Joe Lenore had asked Jonny to come on and do a presentation during the president's meeting and basically break down some of the players from Brock Purdy. And it was during the show that people said, oh, you need to get on Lee's show, the UK show, and get yourself global. So this is why we invited Jonny on. That and the fact that I absolutely love watching your breakdowns online. As I said when I was texting you, I've actually been following you for quite a few years now. And I would be surprised if there's anybody in the chat who doesn't follow you. But maybe anybody who's in the chat, if they want to admit to it, and just say this is the first time I've heard of Jonny, but I think a lot of people will know you because we actually promote you on our podcast anyway. And because we have certain content creators, we always turn around and say, you need to watch this. You need to follow this guy and watch his breakdowns if you're interested in X, Y, or Z. And so you are one of the names that generally comes out because of the breakdowns that you do.
Well, thank you so much for that. That means a lot. It's humbling, really. You guys are way over there in England for me, and or the UK, I should say. Sorry. That the reach has gotten that far. I started out a little over 10 years ago on a small forum it was called a website called 49erswebzone.com, and they had a user forum, and I was just hanging around in there talking 49ers with a lot of people. Somebody said I followed till I heard Alabama. Oh,
That's
boy.
Steve-O. I think you'll know Steve-O.
Roll Tide. And in there, it was actually, it was at the end of the 2012 season. My dad got really sick with cancer, and he was back in Oregon. I had just moved to Alabama, and I ended up moving back for about 6 weeks to take care of him while he was going through some of his different treatments. And I was in the middle of nowhere, Oregon, literally a tiny, large as far as land mass county, very tiny as far as population. In the middle of winter, it was deep snow, 0 degrees where I was, and all I had was an internet connection, and I ended up subscribing to NFL Game Pass just to watch the coaches film. I'd known some stuff about football, and thought, well, I'm going to see what I can see, and started sharing a little bit of that on that forum, and that grew over the years of just people saying, hey, do this every week. And so did that for probably 6 or 7 years. Was just a small group of people on there, and they kept telling me, you need to go do this on YouTube or something, or on social media. And I kept saying, nah, nobody's gonna listen to me. There's no reason for anybody to listen to me. That I just don't think that'll do anything. And finally I decided, okay, I'll give this a shot. And it was in 2019, started doing it on a YouTube channel, and it quickly grew in subscribers. And I thought, okay, well, there is a little bit of a market here for 49ers stuff. And I've been very fortunate and blessed that it has come along the way it is, and gotten the following, and have some amazing people across the world that follow and promote me, and I appreciate every last bit of it. Really, my journey in starting to watch film was that I knew a little bit, but as I watched more and more, and we went through the Chip Kelly years, the Jim Tomsula years, then Shanahan came along, and I said, okay, I need to know a little bit more, and really just became obsessed with knowing the ins and out details of there. Once I got Shanahan's playbook, that from somebody who knew somebody, that really changed a lot of things for me in that sense. So I don't mean it in like a toot my own horns sort of way, but I do see other people will sometimes break things down of the 49ers, and they try and cover a lot of the NFL. And I do sometimes have to catch myself. I don't want to go in there and try and correct people, especially very, very knowledgeable people. But some of these things you can clear up the details when you are willing to take the time to go through the playbook. That by this point is pretty readily available to a lot of people, and say, okay, here's exactly how these are drawn up, so we can base it off of that. I mainly just watch the 49ers, so I can tell you a lot of things about Shanahan's offense just from reverse engineering what he's done over the years, and watching it and detailing it every single week in every single game. And there's just things I can remember of. We ran a play for the first touchdown against the Rams this year, and I watched it once, and I immediately remembered we did 2 plays very similar to that over the last 4 seasons. And I was like, okay, I remember one was in early September and the other one was in October. And I went back to those games and quickly found the clips. That's just some of the I guess, advantage I have with that of just covering 49ers stuff. But mainly, I'm just a big 49ers fan. and through and through. And I'll always tend to bend towards a positive because I'm a fan and I want my team to be successful. And so I try not to be, you want to be fair when there's criticisms to be made. Obviously nobody's perfect, but I try not to be excessively negative for no reason. And it's always, especially when you have a really talented team like we do now, we've gone through a lot as 49ers fans through the middle of the 2010s, through the middle of the 2000s, to know, okay, it could be a lot worse. So I always try and be pretty positive about that kind of stuff.
Yeah, you'd fit in well on our podcast because that's the way we try to do. We try to be positive all the time. If we have to bring any negatives up, we tend to do it at the start of the show and then finish on a positive, so that people go away after listening to us actually feeling a lot more positive than they were after watching a game. We don't do any play breakdowns. We're not that technical. It's basically just fan-based opinion. Ours is more like you sat in a bar and you just talking to a friend. And that's all. That's how we market ourselves. Like I said, we're not experts, but we do want to learn more, which is why we watch the likes of yourself, the likes of John Chapman, Wayne Breezy,
John
Ty
is
Olsen.
awesome.
Yeah. So we've got a lot of people that we do watch.
Well, that's why I said at the start, Jonny, I've been a big fan of yours on social media. I run the Twitter account, so you've probably seen 49 Faithful UK all over. Lee handed that over to me, and I picked up early on from following you. You're a 49ers fan, and like me, you tend to err on the side of positive, and you tend to go live at a good time for us in the UK. So it tends to be on my lunch break or when I'm commuting to and from work, so I'll jump in the chat. But as Lee said, last year, when our podcast started to gain more traction and we started the YouTube channel, a few people in the UK don't know where to find the content creators. So like Lee said, we started shouting out the people that we watch, yourself, Chapman. So to watch a game with John live last year in the Goldmine, the Buccaneers game, and him listening to us see, as you've said, when you watch the Shanahan offense and you can see certain plays develop. There was a play where I was stood next to Ted Talks ball and he was like, it's a run play. Kittle motioned out to the X receiver slot. Nobody followed him. And I said, this is a pass all day long. Brock dropped back, 25-yard pass, Kittle up the sideline. And Ted was like, how did you know that? And I said, just from watching, like you said, the X's and O's, the way you promote it on your channel, the way you talk about it. Even a beginner like me, Lee, can understand. So when Lee said last week, oh, I've got JonnyDel's wants to come on the show, Paul. Is that all right? I was like, that is more than all right by me.
Thank you guys so much. You're too kind.
No problem. So, do you have a breakdown of the Seahawks game for us?
I do. I have some plays to jump into. Let's see if I can share my screen here. Pull this up. So, you should have. There it is. This, I'll make it a little bit bigger. It's not much, but it's what we can get. So this is the big touchdown to Deebo Samuel. We'll let this play through and everybody can kind of see which play I'm talking about. This is 76 yards, Deebo Samuel down the sideline. Oh, it's fantastic. You love to see it. Deebo with the ball in his hands is one of the most electric players in the league, and that's why he got the contract he is. Sometimes the struggle is getting the ball in his hands, but that's a different story altogether. So when we talk about NFL defenses, there's really two basic ways you go about playing defense. If we take down to the very base, one is man coverage, which is what it sounds like. That's, I'm going to take this man, you take that man. That's how a lot of people, I think, view football as, that it's just straight, I'm going to line up across from this guy and I'm going to cover this guy, and that's it. Then there is that, and then there's a lot of details that go into that. There's so many different ways that actually can happen. And then there's what we call zone defense, which is guys dropping to a spot or a zone of the field, and they're going to defend that area. Now, over the years, because zone defense has been around for 60 plus years, that there's been a lot of changes, because every time it's kind of like warfare. Every time somebody figures out a way to attack something, then there's going to be somebody who figures out how to defend something. And then once they figured out how to defend something, now I have to find a new way to attack it, and then a new way to defend it. which I don't know if you guys know who he is. I just have to throw this in there because I was thinking about that. I saw a great YouTuber from the UK, the Chieftain. He was at an event I was at a few weeks ago. So big shout out to the Chieftain. He's got some really good stuff. Anyways, but so over the years, the ideas of how we play zone defense changes. And there's two basic kind of subcomponents of zone defense. There's a spot drop, and then there's matching zone. Spot drop is I'm going to go to a landmark, a spot on the field, and I'm going to cover this area. So we have a lot of different types of zone. We generally refer to them by how many deep players there are, and then that will then cover up for how many players are underneath. Generally, with zone, we're referring to 7-man coverage. So there's 7 guys in coverage. Here you see the Seahawks, they have 4 guys on the line. So you have 11 players on the field, 4 guys will rush, 7 will drop into coverage. And so they're going to play what's called cover 2. So that'd be 2 deep players and then 5 underneath players. So you have 2 deep zones, and then you have 5 underneath zones that are covered by everybody else. So he's going to be here. We're going to drop down. And again, there's 2 different ways to play this. Spot drop, which is, say we're going to come out here 8 yards off the ball and sit in that area right outside the numbers. That would be an example of a spot drop. The Seahawks under Mike Macdonald play more what's called matching zone, which there's a lot of really complex rules that go into it. But based upon certain triggers, guys will match into it, will turn from zone to now I'm going to play a man that the first guy or based upon this rule, I'm now man coverage on this guy. So that's a lot to digest there, but what does that mean? So the Seahawks are in cover 2. We're just going to look at this side of the field. So you have one guy down the middle. You have one guy deep. That's the safety. You have one guy in what we call the cloud, or he's over by the flat, and then we have a hook player. So you have your mic. This is your mic, your hook, your cloud, and your deep safety. And what their rules are going to say, how Mike Macdonald's rules work, and this is more, I can't say this 100% sure, but I will say I'm about 99% sure based upon watching their film and figuring out what their rules are, is that this cloud defender will match any vertical from what we call the number 1 receiver or the first receiver from the sideline, will match any route from the number 1 that breaks in at greater than 8 yards. So that's what I've figured out from watching their film, that's what they always tend to do, is that any vertical route from the number 1 greater than 8 yards, this outside flat defender, the corner, or what we call cloud, is going to match that route. So that's important to understand for why we are lined up the way we are, for the details. So Debo here is the number 2 receiver. He's lined up inside, so he's the second receiver from the sideline. So that means that if he runs a vertical route, depending on what's happened with Ayuk, that corner is going to vacate. And this hook player is actually responsible for matching if he goes out in a certain way. And that's what Shanahan's watching on film. So he's going to say, okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to run a play that we've run a lot of times. Normally this play, and what it says in the playbook is Debo is lined up out here. But now we've moved him inside Ayuk because of how the Seahawks play their defense. And Ayuk is playing what's called a drift route. So it's designated as a 6-step in route. So he's going to take 6 steps and break in and then work to space. And he's the number 1 read on the progression. So Ayuk is number 1. And then number 2 is going to be Debo. And Debo's going to run what's called a rail route. So that's a go route down the sideline from lined up inside. So he's going to run a rail route. So then we usually pair this off of a run action or run fake. So the idea is, with the drift, is that you're going to take this mic and you're going to try and make him attack the run, and then you're going to try and hit this drift route right over the middle. That's the idea. So if what they've done is this guy attacks and then the corner matches because they want to allow for that, that's how you can, as a defense, then adjust to how somebody comes after you. Now you've got a 1-2 that's out here on the sideline. Does that all make sense?
Yeah.
I know it's a lot to digest. We'll see it play out as it goes. So we're going to see the run fake, and also you can tell this too. Look at where the corner's eyes are. He's reading Ayuk, so they're reading this. where does the number 1 go? And after a certain point, you're going to see him take eyes off and just look to match. But the run fake's going to draw up the mic. So you're going, okay, we're looking good there. But then he recovers really well, and he's dropping back into this zone, and the corner's beginning to match. Now, what the run fake also does is it drew the hook player's eyes inside. So he loses vision on Debo, who's then going to go up the sideline. So this is where Purdy's reading. He's saying first to my number 1 over here, well, it's covered. The corner is matched. And that's actually what causes this safety, who's supposed to be in a half, to drive a little bit, is all this attention towards where he's reading the number 1. So a lot of time people will think a play like this was just designed just to go to Debo. It actually wasn't. We run it this way with these route combinations once a game, twice a game, but you have to get the right things to see. So you see that the corner is matching, and that's going to tell Purdy, all right, I'm going to have this route right out here. He wants to hit a little bit sooner, but has to reset because of the pressure, and then throws it. Now, again, I've heard some people say there's a bad throw. You can watch Julian Love here. He takes the only angle he has possible to get to this ball. People said, he took a bad angle. That was the only angle he had. If he took a shallower angle, he wasn't going to make it there in time. And, it's a close play. Brock was able to get it there off of his back foot all the way down to Debo. That's how it happens. But this wasn't just, Shanahan just drew it up because he knew that was going to be open on the explosive. You can see Brock's eyes. Watch his eyes. Looking down the middle, it's taken. Okay, now I move to number 2 and put the ball out there. And you can see how quickly the quarterback has to process all of this. You see how quickly his eyes jump. It's out of the play fake. Boom, boom, throw. It's something special to see. Any comments, questions, concerns on that?
Absolutely. Well, that was at about 2 a.m. in the UK, Jonny. So jumping around celebrating that bad boy was hard. But I mean, we're following along. Just before Lee jumps in, we've got one of our members from the UK, and he says a shout out to you. He says he watches your breakdowns after every game. He says thank you for your insights to help understand the whys and hows. And as I said at the start of the show, Lee, your breakdowns, Jonny, you are in a way where we're watching. And the All 22, when I got that on Game Pass for the first time, I had no idea what I was looking at. I remember coming on the podcast for Lee, and I was like, I've got this thing called All 22 Coaches. What on earth do we do with this? But watching someone like you break that down, that's invaluable it was, isn't it, Lee?
It is, definitely. Definitely. And looking at that play in particular, I've got to say I thought when I saw it live that the safety had taken a bad line towards him. But as you said, it does look as though it's the only line he could have taken. But I think what the big mistake the safety made is he tried to go for the home run and intercept the pass because he thought it was going to go past him rather than actually just make the tackle. I think had he just did his job, made the tackle, then it wouldn't have been 7 points on the board then. But this is the type of stuff that we do love in the UK, because we do need it explained to the vast majority of us, and it does help us understand the game a lot better.
Well, I think it's... Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, Jonny, the way that you broke that down, Ayuk last year was our number 1 receiver, and as you said, the way that play was drawn up, the Seahawks players will have watched game tape, and when he's made that cut inside, that's where Purdy tends to have that anticipation and release the ball. And like you said, those 3 plays were anticipating that. And then, like you said, he took his eye off Debo. And when you see how quick Brock has spun his head around, and like you said, I've seen those people on social media, Jonny, say it was a bad throw. How can that be a bad throw? Especially when you watch the breakdown like what you've just done.
Yeah, and like you guys said, I think all of us at some point have needed football explained to us because it's so complex and there's so many parts to it. And I credit really the international viewers that I did get that were brave enough and kind enough to give me some constructive criticism in my videos when I was early on of saying, hey, you're moving on this stuff. I don't understand that. Can you talk about it more? And that really adjusted how I started approaching how I was trying to explain everything, because it's easy for me to say, okay, well, there's a cloud defender. Well, unless you know what cloud means, there's a whole language that it is. And so it's really about, it's trying to learn a language and then being able to understand everything on there, which cloud is a C word for corner in the flat. And so that's how a lot of it is. Usually when there's a word attached to the coverage, the first letter will tell you what that means, and it's in reference to the flat area, which is these areas of the field, which is the short outside areas. So you have like sky, which is safety in the flat. You have buzz, which is backer or linebacker in the flat. Cloud, corner in the flat. That's what we use to as words to identify different parts of coverage. But it's a lot to digest, and so being able to see everything. So pairing off of that last play, we'll see this very similar play again. We're going to run the drift again. So that previous play was just called drift. That's what Shanahan calls it. It goes back to his dad. His dad ran drift routes all the time with the Broncos and really, I think he started running it with the 49ers back when he was offensive coordinator with the 49ers way back in the day, but really ran it heavily with the Broncos. But you're going to see Debo this time. He's just going to push vertical, run straight down the field, what we call streak route. That's an inside. That's a go route that's between the hashes and the numbers. So you have hashes and numbers. So a streak route's just a go route down that area. And then we're going to run Ayuk on a drift route. So 6-step in breaking route. I'm going to do it off run action. Now we bring in Juszczyk as the fullback, really sell this run action, but same thing. And now you're going to see the Seahawks play this differently, and Brock is able to throw it to his number one, but this is such a good anticipatory throw. So, okay, we've come out of the run fake. You see Dodson has really attacked the run. And here comes Ayuk. He's going to break here for his 6-step in route, but this is really muddy. I mean, that's 4 players on the inside of basically between the hashes almost. And so Brock's anticipation and timing on this to throw into this window is phenomenal. So he's able to hit that, what we call through a second window throw into that area to get Ayuk on the field. Now, again, this is the same play, same route. We just don't have the outside go route. We run the streak down the middle. So if we watch this from the end zone, you're really going to see Dodson is going to attack the run really hard, and then watch the anticipation on this throw from Purdy. This is as good as it gets in the NFL. So there's a run fake. There's Dodson coming up. Purdy, what he's doing, watch his eyes as he whips around. He's looking at Baker. He's got to do this all in a head spin. He's going to look to Baker, to 24, then to Dodson. That's where his reads are going to be to check this throw. Whips his head around, sees Dodson right here. Look at him in his windup. And Brandon Ayuk is here, and he's going to come catch this ball on the other hash. That does not look open. You have 2 guys in the throwing lane. But this is as JT O'Sullivan would say, world-class anticipation, but it's true. You're talking a handful of guys in the league have this kind of anticipation on their throw and timing to make that throw at that point that quickly. That is phenomenal, because that window is not open for very long. One of the biggest problems we had with Trey Lance is that we would run these plays and he would hold on to the ball because he had to see it open. And by the time he saw it open, this is going to look even better from the other end zone. By the time he saw it open, it was closed. So these are throws that have to be made with anticipation. It's why Shanahan loves Purdy so much. So you're going to see Dodson attack. He comes out of the fake. Right there is where he's reading this. He sees second window open. Normally you want to hit this this would be the first window. So this is where you're going to say this is a first window throw, and that's where your first window is. Then this is your second window. And so he's got to determine right here, do I fire this thing in here, or do I wait just a hitch and throw it in here? And the anticipation, you see the hitch. My goodness. Right on him. Love to see it. Brock Purdy doing Brock Purdy things.
Purdy Goodley. What do you reckon?
So I don't particularly want to be critical of Brock Purdy, but do you think he can do a better job at selling the fake, selling the run? Because what I've noticed about Brock Purdy is he tends to pull the ball really quick.
Well, it's one of those. I think the best judge of that is how do you see these guys react? Because remember, they got to look through these guys who are all about 6'3", 6'4". So how do we see those guys react? they bite.
Yeah.
And so as long as you're getting them to bite, then you're doing okay. Now Aaron Rodgers is like the master of the play action fake. He's not quite there yet, but the big thing is, are you seeing an effect on the defense? There's moments that you don't, and sometimes so it's more than just the quarterback that goes into run fakes. So the offensive line, if we take this back, the offensive line really has to sell these too. Defensive linebackers. So these guys right here are taught to read, they call hi-hats. Hi-hats are low shoulders. So offensive linemen, if they're pass blocking, are going to step back, and their hat's going to come up because they step back. And so they're dropping back into a pass set. When they run block, they fire out low with low shoulders. So that helmet doesn't pop up. And so linebackers are actually reading these guys. So his eyes are right here. That's where this linebacker's watching, and he's going to look for, do these guys fire out low or do they step back into a pass set? So those guys also have to do their part to really help sell this. Because there's, in so many offenses, this happens in high school, college, pro football. There's so much that happens in the backfield that is not going to tell you what they're doing. If an NFL coach watches this linebacker on film and he says, okay, every time they run, this guy comes down, he's going to come meet him, or this guy's the same thing, then what they're going to do is they're going to take Debo and run him on the backside, hand it off to him, fake a handoff, and then they're going to do reverse, and it's off to the races. And sometimes that happens. If you start seeing guys have what we call bad eye discipline, meaning their eyes are not disciplined to watch the lineman, not watch something we call the cheese in the backfield, they bite the cheese, then you attack that. But it's a whole unit thing. So one thing here, Dominic Pooney does a really good job. If we watch him on this, he's gonna keep his hips sunk and just take a couple jab steps forward. That's what helps sell this run. If you look at him, he doesn't just drop back into a pass set. So he shoots out. There we go. Love it. Okay, shoot out. Make it look like you're drive blocking on a run. That's what helps cause these guys to come up. So it's a whole offensive line, quarterback, everything selling that run fake is involved.
It's all right, Johnny. You trust Gowland to be the only man critical of Brock Purdy after that breakdown. It's what Lee does. He tries to mix in.
There's always room
fantastic.
for improvement.
I will always accept questions like that. It's fantastic.
And as Ty Alston said there, before you move on, he heard Trent Williams is tripping our players, Johnny. I thought you'd enjoy that one. Ty is bringing the fire in the chat.
I'm not even gonna touch that one. That's a conversation for about 2 years ago.
Yeah, it's just Ty Alston being there. But no, we'll let you move on.
Yeah.
So this is going to be a touchdown throw from Brock Purdy to George Kittle. I'll let it play through once we can see the end result of this play. This is Brock Purdy at his best. This is where Brock is truly at his best of what he does. Processing quickly, the subtleties of playing quarterback, and delivering an accurate ball on time. This is Brock Purdy at his best. So this is a play that, when you play a divisional opponent, you're going to see them twice a year. They have more film on you than anybody else. They have more scouting reports on you than anybody else. Their players have experience playing you more than anybody else. They will know everything you want to do. There's no way you can walk in with your normal offense and do everything just as you normally do it, because they will be jumping on everything. They know what's coming. They will have memorized your formations and what plays you run out of them. So you have to come with variations if you want to do the same thing. So normally we have a play that's called rub, and it's a red zone play. Normally you're going to see George Kittle come up and run a corner route. So that's come up at 10 yards, 8 to 10 yards, break towards the back corner of the end zone. That's why we call it a corner route. So the pylon's way out there. That would be his normal launch point. And then normally Juwan Jennings would actually be out here by the numbers, not motioning around in here. And what Debo would run is what's called a rub under route, which is meant to come up. And we say rub because you're trying to create a rub between defenders with this corner route. That's why they're stacked on top of each other. He's going to come up and then work underneath on what's called a rub under route. And then on the outside, you would have what's called a sluggo under. So a sluggo is a 3-step slant, and then a sluggo is 3-step slant, 2 steps, fake a go, and then run a go. Well, the sluggo under is run a sluggo and then run an under. That's a lot to digest in there, I know. So the question is, how do you create this play with something new in a different variation, but maintaining your timing? Because really what you're trying to do is go 1 to 2. And then this would be your 3 on the corner route. You're trying to say we're going to work inside out across the board for the quarterback. So how do you run this with the same sort of timing so that you get this distribution between the outside route and the inside route? Well, what you're going to do is you're going to run Jennings on a little back and forth, and now you're going to snap it from here. And what you're going to do is you're going to have Jennings come out like he's running what's called a choice out, and then he's going to return. So that's going to give you the same timing as a guy coming up and doing this. It's about the same amount of steps, and it'll put you in the same spot that you normally would be in. So it's a way to create the same sort of spacing in your routes, the same idea with the route, and do it with a variation. So that's one thing that we have here. And now, instead of running Kittle on a corner route, again, they know your stuff. They know what's coming. You can get the same effect. He's going to run what's called a scout route, which is a 10-yard out route. So he's going to run this scout, and you have the rub under. And so what we're trying to do here, Seahawks are in cover 2 zones. So you got a deep safety. You got a corner in the flat, cloud. You have a hook player. So you're trying to create a triangle stretch here, really, on these 2 underneath defenders, on these 2 zones. And so what you do, I'll clean this up a little bit, is you're going to say, okay, we're going to run this out and like that. So what we're going to say is this player is going to come back and in a hook. So we're first going to read on him. If he has to carry Kittle vertical, because this, in this area, is a vulnerable spot against cover 2. So a lot of times what teams will do is say, okay, hook player against that weak side, they're trying to fake like there's a strength change, which will cause this. Then we're going to make you carry, and if you carry, this will be open. So that's what we're trying to get. That's Debo, number 1. If he doesn't carry and he sits and he matches Debo inside, okay, now you've got him running this way, and we're going to hit Juwan Jennings because he's coming in right after. If then this corner who's going to be out here, if he matches, now we hit Kittle. So see how that works of 1 to 2 to 3. I know it's a lot to see in there, but that's what you're trying to do. And so George Kittle is the number 3 on this play. So he's first going to look to Debo, then Jennings, then Kittle. So we see this. Purdy's going to drop back. First thing he does is he sees Dodson is shading over. Well, now that changes your read on him. If he carries, you can't necessarily throw this because that Mike's now there. That changes really this whole play. And this is where Purdy, again, he's so good at streamlining it. The moment he sees that, he knows, okay, now they can beat me because the hook can carry Kittle, the Mike will match Debo, and the corner can match Juwan Jennings. So they have a way to account for all of this. So how do I make sure that this corner actually does attack Jennings and he doesn't drop back to where Kittle is going to be? Because he sees right there, he knows where this is going to go. So if you watch Purdy on this, he's going to give a little pump fake at the top, and that's going to draw this player underneath to open up Kittle right down here. So we watch, because the safety has to play both ways. He's got to play Kittle going both ways. So you have an advantage on that. But let's just watch Purdy right here. As he drops back. You see it? It happens so fast. It's just that shoulder, hand off the ball. And you can see this guy, right? He's squatting. He's reacted to that. He says, okay, I'm going to get that because you have this taken away. The hook's ready to drive on Jennings. So now you got to get this corner to drive. So now you're going to have Kittle break open. And again, this is where Purdy is so good. You have to understand from his vantage point, these 2 guys are in the throwing lane. So he's got to get this ball up over those guys to the side point of the end zone where only George Kittle can get it. One hitch, ball out, perfect location. That is as good a quarterback play as you're going to see anywhere in the world, period. These are the moments when I say this is Brock Purdy at his best. This is what I'm talking about. You're going to see him hit that back step, shoulder, one hitch to get to 3, to keep on the timing, and perfect ball location. And camera lady, watch out.
But drag swag, it was awesome. It was awesome in real time. It's even better seeing that breakdown. I thought I saw him do that on the broadcast, the little pump fake, because we remember that play from Seattle a couple of years ago where he pump faked it twice and then threw down the middle to Kittle. So I had traits of that. But no, it was amazing, wasn't it, Lee?
It was, definitely. Definitely. You just reminded me of one of the boldies that I missed out on last week. And that was the double pump fake again.
Yeah. And look at the ball location.
Yeah,
that is as good a ball location as it gets. Where only Kittle can get it. To hit that in time, to really understand the processing ability that takes. And you can see this guy, he's excited. You got a 49ers fan there in the end zone. He's excited. They're unhappy. You love to see it.
You definitely love to see it.
And then we'll talk about his next touchdown to Kittle. And this is, again, it's such good streamlining of the read, of being able to understand what you're seeing pre-snap through the film study and everything. Now, again, this is one I saw somebody refer to Kittle's route here as like a short post. That's not really what's going around, because he said that Ayuk was number 1 and Kittle was number 2, and that's not how this play works. So, again, Seattle's looking like they're in this 2 zone, and they are. Now, they're playing, not to get too much into the weeds, but to understand exactly how this works, and you have to understand what Brock is processing. They're running a matching zone on this side. So what we saw before, or what I talked about before, Seattle runs a lot of matching zones now with Mike McDonald. So how these 3 players, their rules work is this player is going to play what's called first out. So he's going to take the first route that breaks out. We're going to have first vertical, and we're going to have first in. So that's what their rules are going to say. And then if there's no first in, we're going to take second out. So that's how these rules work. And so the design of this play works to bust their rules. Generally, this is the player you can't account for. And so in that, with the way this is drawn up, generally this is the Mike in a cover 2, and generally he's what's called a 3 receiver Mike, and so he's gonna shade towards the 3 receiver side, and so we have 3 receivers on this side. So if he shades that way, here's how you account for that. We have Ayuk on what's called a lookie route, which again goes back to Mike Shanahan, and it's just basically going to be a short post or a little bit deeper of a slant, kind of like. Well, I won't get into that. It's a slant route from that side, and then on the back side, you're going to have Kittle's going to run what's called an eliminator route. It's going to come up, break, stem outside or kind of shave outside, and then break in. And then you're going to have, this is Patrick Taylor come out, and he's going to run a Texas route. Juszczyk's going to run an out route. So again, if we remember our rules, this guy's first out, so he's going to take Kittle or Juszczyk. This guy's first vertical, so he's going to take Kittle, and this guy's first in. So he's going to take Patrick Taylor. So we know how they're going to match this up in their zones. Again, we can't account for this guy. So what Brock's going to do is he's going to say, okay, I'm going to read where this guy goes. If he goes towards this side, they can take away our concept over here. And this is what's called an arches concept, and it's 1 to 2. And then this is going to be 1 on the backside. So he's going to say, okay, if he shades over here, I'm going to throw the lookie. If he shades towards the lookie, I'm going to work inside out or outside in on the arches. Does that all make sense?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, makes sense. Yep.
Now, again, here's where it streamlines, is that Brock's looking at this and he says, okay, I recognize this coverage from our film study. I know I'm going to get George Kittle on this safety, much like I had on the previous one. And he's got to play outside leverage first. He's got to protect outside because he's going to have a Mike inside who he's expecting to drop back into this area. So, to guarantee this play's got success, if I look off really hard towards Ayuk and get this guy moving, I'm going to have George Kittle right here, who's his number 3. And he's doing this pre-snap. Okay? And how do I know this? Because of how the play ends up going. Watch Brock Purdy on this give a ridiculously hard fake. He's going to snap, and boom, he's looking hard. But look at his leg. He's not shifted his leg. He's not planning on throwing this ball. This is all about giving shoulders. It's just shoulders that side, so this guy will bail and go towards the lookie, and that creates a one-on-one with the proper leverage on your safety. See, the safety's moving out because he's going to protect outside in because he's expecting this mic to be right here. So he looks the mic off and then delivers a strike. That's the streamlining of the process. That's the kind of stuff you would see Drew Brees do, is that he would understand what his routes were, what his concepts were, how they worked against the defense, and how I can now manipulate the defense to get the best matchup possible. To do this processing in real time is phenomenal. And you see Dodson just get faked out. My goodness. Little head fake, deliver a strike. That's awesome. Like when I've talked to different people and said, Brock Purdy is playing quarterback and has been at such a high level, and hear people say that, it is completely true that Brock Purdy is playing quarterback at as good of a level as you can ask any quarterback to play right now, as far as playing the quarterback position, see the field, process, deliver the ball on time with accuracy.
Yeah, it's great to see. I mean, we've had a lot in the UK, Johnny, non-Niners fans beating us with the Trey Lance stick. And then when Brock came in, no matter what Brock did, and I'm regurgitating. The Trey Lance
stick, that's amazing.
Honestly, they still do when they're like, oh, you gave up all those picks. And now they're like, oh, Brock needs his Avengers and Brock's the king of Yak. And the excuses are running out. So getting you on the show and breaking it down, they can't even accuse me of being biased because you know more than me. And you've shown perfect what we've been shouting from the rooftops, isn't it, Lee, since Purdy took the reins?
Definitely. If I've got one question, because obviously you've broken down every game that Purdy's played, what do you think's been his biggest improvement?
So this is not going to be the answer probably most people would expect, or really care for much. His front foot. It's a mechanical thing. A friend of mine, Greg Pinelli, who if people aren't following him on X, they should be following him on X. He runs a quarterback academy out of California called the Pinelli Passing Academy. And I remember last year I was seeing some things with Brock's mechanics, and I sent it to him. He's coached several quarterbacks that are in the NFL today. He coaches at all levels of football, and I said, hey, Brock looks like he's got this issue with his front foot, and it was causing him to yank some of his throws to the left. It happened in the Browns game last year. He threw an interception, and everybody thought the ball got away from him because of the rain. And when I watched back the play, I was like, it looked like what we call closing off. So his front foot wasn't open enough to the target, which will cause you. What'll happen is when that happens, the arm tries to make up because the hips can't get around in time, and so the arm comes around a little bit too quickly, and you actually will throw to your left when you close off your front foot too much. And so I was seeing that, and that went back to something his rookie year. I remember the one thing I saw in his first number of starts his rookie year. I thought, he keeps closing off his foot, and throws to the left were going to the left. That he was having some accuracy issues there, and then down the middle that would cause some of them, because now it was closed off but overstepped, that to make up for that he would tend to sail a little bit to the right down the middle. So there was causing some accuracy issues to the left and some accuracy issues down the middle. That has been much more improved this year, which speaks to somebody working on the fundamentals and mechanics of throwing the ball and of being a quarterback. I think the way he sees and processes the field has always been elite, and it's always been really good. But him tightening up that mechanics, that's the stuff that is really interesting to see, because we haven't always had quarterbacks who who have done that, who you see the year to year improvement in their mechanics and in their footwork and in all that stuff. That tells you how hard of a worker that Brock is, that he's willing to change that. And as far as I understand, he has changed little bits in his throwing motion every single year. And that also, again, speaks to a guy that's exactly what you saw with Tom Brady. Tom Brady every year would tweak something. And so it almost was easier that way for them because you're not unlearning 6 years of bad habits. You're unlearning the last 6 months and then working on something new. So, because he was constantly working on it. Peyton Manning was the same way. Joe Montana was the same way. The great quarterbacks, Drew Brees was the same way. That you saw little tweaks to their mechanics every single year. Some guys can get away with it. Some guys like Josh Allen, his mechanics look very similar to how they've been. Now, he has also tweaked his mechanics, and Greg has been one of the guys that have helped him with that. But like Lamar Jackson, I don't see a lot of evolution in his mechanics over the years, and that's why he's still dealing with some of the same accuracy issues now that he was 6 years ago. Where Brock, you're not seeing that. And so that would be, for me, just from my eyes, the number one thing I've seen him improve on this year.
So that was a brilliant answer, and the reason for that is none of us would have thought about that. So that has opened our eyes to something else to actually look at with Brock. And not just Brock, just our general enjoyment of the NFL.
Well, anyway, Lee, you should be following me on social media because Greg is a good friend of Eric Crocker, Jonny.
Yes,
he is. A couple of years ago, when I was playing flag football, Lee, Greg asked for some amateur footage to talk what Jonny's talking about. And me and Connor had some great fun sharing some amateur footage of a 40-year-old bloke and a 28-year-old Englishman, how not to throw a football, Jonny. But like you've said, Lee, it's little things like social media, Twitter, YouTube, that my knowledge of the game, Jonny, for the last few years is unreal. But as soon as you mentioned Greg Pinelli, I'm like, that's Eric Crocker's guy. And Eric Crocker shouts him out all the time. And the breakdowns that yourself does, you talked about JT O'Sullivan. I watch those videos every week. So, and as Taradome, who's joined us from across the pond, has said there, vision, decision, deliver with precision. That is quarterback in the NFL. So I thought you'd like that quote, Jonny.
No, and Taradome does a great job. He's got a YouTube channel. He gets into the film as well. It's almost like you're going to church with him. So he gets into it. He's very impassioned about it. And yes, I met Greg through Eric. I'd seen him on Crocker's show, and I reached out to him, and he was very gracious with some time, and he came on, did a couple episodes with me. I need to get him back on my channel. Great mind. He has got a great background. He worked at Oregon with Chip Kelly when Chip Kelly was at the University of Oregon, worked with Marcus Mariota. That's where he really got his start in the coaching side of it. And then from there, he worked with a couple different organizations as like almost like an independent contractor on that as far as quarterbacking. And then now runs the Pinelli Passing Academy, and he also played quarterback in college. So definitely knows his stuff. Really knows the mechanics of throwing a ball, and has got some really really good up and comers headed to college. Some high school kids that are really looking impressive. That people follow him. You'll know those names in a couple years.
Well, that's some good advice. So I'm conscious that you are actually at work today, and I don't want to keep you too long. Do you want to tell everybody about all your different socials, your Patreon, how they can get involved with supporting you? Yeah,
so my YouTube channel, JonnyDel's Football Academy. You can find me on YouTube that way. That's JonnyDel's. It's spelled on the screen with no H. That's easy. Really, you can just even Google JonnyDel's Football Academy, and it'll pop up. That's where you can get it. I do weekly game reviews where I put everything. I do what I do here in a little more condensed format, trying to cover as many plays as I can in a very sharp and precise way as I can to convey the ins and outs of the game and really answer the question: why did the game go the way it did? There's a lot of things that. When we get to the end of the game, you say, wow, man, it was that play why we lost. Well, oftentimes there's 20 plays in there that lead to how the game goes the way it does. And so I'm trying to answer that, why and how. So that's the number one way people can follow me. They can follow me on X at JonnyDel's. or JonnyDel's FA for JonnyDel's Football Academy. Find me there on Twitter or X. That's where I post a lot of reactions real time in games, and then try and do like teasers of the review videos that are coming down, and just kind of engage in the conversations there. I have a members website that's done by the same people who have done John Chapman's website, and that is jfa49.com, and that is where people can go and support what I do on the video side of it directly, and get access to some exclusive content where I've got a few videos where I'm going through, like cover 3 and explaining what cover 3 is. And I go to the whiteboard and I'm showing you what it's all about. And then we jump to the film and I walk you through the 49ers. This is how the 49ers play cover 3. This is how they play cover 4. This is how they play cover 2. And walk through that. That's for more the real football nerds that really want to dive into the details of the ins and outs of that. But I've done that, and then I'm starting to do also with the members website some exclusives each week of getting like this into the deeper details of everything, and going through in detail, not as many plays, but really getting into the details of that. Like this week, I did every single red zone play that we had. That's been an issue for the 49ers. And so looking at, why did we score in the red zone? Why didn't we score in the red zone on a few of these? And I will tell you, almost every single play that we ran inside the red zone this last week was this close to scoring. Every single one. It was one guy on every single play. Not the same guy, but each play, it was only one guy away from being a touchdown on every single red zone play. This offense is really this close to being a 40-plus point a game offense. It's wild to see. And no, you are that close. You really are just so close to breaking through that wall and putting up historic numbers on offense if they can get it tied together. If that's the question, can they tie it all together? If they can tie that together, this offense has the potential to really be special. I don't think we see that yet because last year started out so hot, but I think if they get all that rolling and they get back healthy, this is going to be a really amazing offense to see come November, December, January.
Great. So one last thing before you go, Jonny. Do you have a score prediction for Sunday night?
Oh, boy.
So for context, before you answer, we do a score prediction on our Thursday night show, Jonny, and it's very competitive, and Lee leads the charge. Now, I was going to say, Lee, when I drop
but he doesn't lead the table. Lee is dead last.
But I was going to say, Jonny, when I drop the Niners are scoring 40 points on the Chiefs, and I blame you because you've got me fired up after that breakdown and that speech.
Now, I will say, I watched a lot of the Chiefs' defense the last 2 days. I went and watched a lot of their film. One thing you cannot do versus that Chiefs' defense is getting 3rd and long. 3rd and long, their packages are so wild. They come with everything. They bring the heat. They know how to play within that. They know how to play within their down and distance. If you can make it at least 3rd and medium, they don't run nearly as many blitzes. They run 2 blitzes. The only 2 at 3rd and medium all season long. And they're much more predictable in what they're going to do. That doesn't mean you can always be ready for it, because there's a lot to get into. I'm going to try and put it together in a video this week. You have to stay 3rd and medium or better, or this is going to be an awful day. The way that defense is playing, if you can keep it at 3rd and medium for 3/4 of your 3rd downs, I'm feeling really good about our chances in this game. I think now it's going to come down to 3rd and medium. 95% of the time, Steve Spagnuolo is going to run man coverage, and it's going to be there. And probably only about 70% of the time, they're not going to blitz 3rd and medium. That's why there's that advantage. About 70%, only maybe 1/3 of the time will you see a blitz on 3rd and medium. And if it is, it's only 1 of 2 blitzes. So you don't have to prepare for this huge array of 8 different blitzes that they can bring at you. So you're only having to prepare for 2. You're going to get man coverage almost surely. Every single one was... I'd say out of all the reps I watched every single 3rd and medium that they had. Only one time, and it was against the Saints, did they actually run zone? So that means George Kittle, Brandon Ayuk, Ricky Pearsall have got to win. They've got to win. Somebody in there, Juwan Jennings, has got to win if you can stay on 3rd and medium. And I do believe that somewhere in there, you're going to have that they can't cover all of them, that they won't match up against all of those guys in man coverage if you can stay at 3rd and medium. So that starts with being able to run the ball outside the tackles. That's where the one place you can run on the Chiefs is a little bit on the edges. So those things do help us. I don't think they don't give up explosive plays hardly ever. So you're not going to be able to just push the ball down the field a lot. But you've got to stay in 3rd and medium. I think Juwan Jennings, Ricky Pearsall, George Kittle have got to have a day and got to win their matchups. I don't expect Debo to. He's not good at it. Generally doesn't do it. The Chiefs tend to put him in a box and keep him there. They're gonna shade help towards Brandon Ayuk. That's what they do. So I don't expect Ayuk to have a day. It's those other 3 guys have got to have a day on 3rd and medium. If that happens, this is I think it's 24-20 49ers. That's what I think. This Chiefs offense is not real explosive. They're struggling moving the ball a little bit, but they do tend to score once at least something most times when they get the ball. But they're not a run it down the field, just move it down the field offense like they were. I think if you're able to keep it at 3rd and medium, then you keep the ball, you like what you do. It's 24-20 49ers.
Nice. Right, Jonny, thank you very much. It's been a pleasure. We have learned a lot. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you so much for bringing me on. I really appreciate any chances anybody gives me and opportunities. The people being gracious with your audience. You don't owe me your audience, and you allowed me to come on and speak to your audience, and I appreciate that very much.
No
You're
problem.
welcome.
No problem at all, buddy.
And I will be sharing your links on social media. So thank you very much, buddy.
Thank you so much. You guys have a good one.
Cheers, Jonny. You too.
Now, Lee, you are left, as in Ty Olsen said there, the king of keeping people want more, but hold your horses tight, Lee. That was, to quote you, fantastic. I watched the breakdown on his channel earlier, as I said to you. It was a 27-minute video of Brock Purdy earlier, and I was just blown away with the level of detail. And it puts into context sometimes when we talk on the show, and you think we know a little bit, and then you see something like that. I'm watching it in real time, and he was explaining it to me, and I was thinking, Nadji used to blow my mind with some of the stuff Nadji talked about, and this is no disrespect to Nadji because he knows a lot more than me, but that was just fantastic, to quote you.
Yeah, definitely was. And like I said, I mean, when I met Jonny, I met him during the President's meeting a month ago. And that meeting, so I had to be up at 2 o'clock in the morning for that. And generally, those meetings only last an hour. So I would normally be back in bed by about 3:05. I think the previous one to last month, we had Mike Wilson on, former wide receiver from the 49ers. And then obviously last month we had JonnyDel's on. And because we had Jonny on and he was breaking down the players, the meeting actually lasted for 2.5 hours. So I didn't eventually get to bed until 20 to 5 in the morning. But I enjoyed it. So it was easy to stay up. It was easy to push through the tiredness to do that. So, Paul.
Well, apparently, Lee, Barry is expecting this level of breakdown on Sunday. We'll see what we could do, Barry. But yes, Lee, I know we've gone a little over time, people, but I think you'll agree it was worth it. It was worth it, though. So,
right, so I'll make this quick. So you're going to have to tell me what I'm actually pulling out here, Paul. So let me just get rid of this plastic wrapping.
Where's Brett Sinclair when you need him with a statement like that? So, Taradome, appreciate you joining. So, Taradome tends to go live 2-3 o'clock in the afternoon our time. So, I tend to join his show in the chat, and he's got a great impression of a London English accent. So, Taradome, we're going to have to get you on the show sometime, buddy. But, Lee, what have you got?
Right. So, is that a standard card, is it?
That is the certificate of authenticity. Been practicing that word. So that's to say that you have got a genuine willpower card.
Ooh. So there's the card.
that looks like you've got a Crimson Niner card, which there's only 152 of those. So in the top right-hand corner on the back, there should be a number.
Yeah, there is. It's 101 of 152.
Yep, so you have one of the special edition. It's a rare parallel. It's a foil edition. There's only 152. And also, you know it's rare because if you look at the case that it's in. So the case that I've got, which was the base card, Lee, on my camera's a little bit more clearer today. Can you see my case is clear and your case is black?
That's right.
So from what I've seen, the rare cards are in a black. I think these are called mag safes. I'm a total novice when it comes to card collecting. But
you are.
But Lee, you've got to say the packaging, like you've got yours like this.
It's unbelievable, the packaging. Yeah.
It's pretty special, isn't it? Like when Jordan reached out to us and was like, can you help promote these? I think we've sold 15 in the UK, I was saying to Jordan.
Yeah.
So for the people in the UK, we were going to do a group order. But as Lee will back me up on this, we need people's money in first. So I put the post out, Lee, and said, group order, if we got so many, it was 10%, then it was 15%. And then at the weekend, Jordan's website launched a 25% discount code. So rather than wait for me to collect everyone's money in, people have just gone and ordered on their own. So now that 25% discount is ended, I will probably chat to people in Newcastle at the weekend and see if there's any mileage because there is still cards available. I believe one of our group got one of the rare signature cards. That was Kev Williams, who runs the Discord group. But you've got to be happy with that, Lee. You've got one of 152.
Yeah.
So to put it into context, the base card, there's 974 of them. So they're the base card. It says what it says on the tin. And then the Crimson Niner. So Patrick Willis came on the show to talk about the card. And as Ty Alston said, Jordan's done a great job. He's been good on social media. Dan, he's not into card collecting, but he admits these things are beautiful.
Yeah, so I'm exactly the same, Dan. I'm not particularly into card collecting. However, I do have quite a few. But I've bought them purely because the signed cards off eBay. I've got various ones from all through the decades. But I don't buy the packs. I did it once. But I think the mistake I made is I bought quite the cheapest pack possible. It was the kind of thing where I just wanted to give it a go, see if it floated my boat. And I got a few cards in there that look good, but I've no idea what they are. I've no idea if there's any value behind them or anything like that.
What I would say, Lee, and maybe I'm going to be controversial to the experts out there. So in lockdown, like most people, I started to collect a few cards. And what I did is collect what I wanted to collect. And I had a budget and I didn't go crazy. And there's various groups in the UK. There's various sites on eBay. But what we would say to people is don't go particularly crazy. However, if you're tempted, I would definitely recommend, as you've shown, Lee, we've got two now.
Yeah,
so as you can see,
the quality of, the quality of the box, the quality of the card, everything that you get in there, it stands out. Yeah, it completely stands out.
I have that
Panini
stood
cards
up on the shelf behind me, Lee, and Tracy's like, it's a box. I'm like, yes, but it's got Patrick Willis's signature printed onto the box, Tracy. Yeah. It isn't just a box. Red Jet Shell saying that Patrick Willis, she's put my hero is the truth. So the show. Now, before we finish off, people, we've talked about a meet-up for a number of weeks. And Lee, the showdown in the Toon, which is what the UK Chiefs group have called this. So full disclaimer, they have ran with this. They've booked the bar. They've been the one who's done the poster on social media, which I couldn't share on this show because I couldn't get it on the slide. But I will share it on Twitter after. But we will be heading to Louis' Liquor Store in the Big Market, Newcastle upon Tyne. 9:25 kickoff. It is the Sky Sports game, which I know for you people watching at home, it's a bit of a pain because it's blacked out. But for people attending local meets, because I think Georgina might be trying one in Manchester. Yeah. There might be a few pop up around the UK. Sky Sports definitely helps, doesn't it? So
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, Sunday night, you couldn't have picked two better games to have on at 6 o'clock and 9 o'clock.
I was going to say, Andy Norton is joining us, and he was panicking because he thought he wasn't going to get to watch the Lions, and we were trying to talk about bringing an iPad. And then at dinner time today, when the Sky Games was announced, I was like, Andy, 2 Sky Games in the bar.
Yeah.
So we will be on the quayside from about 2 p.m. on Sunday.
I've got some news about that. So I had intended to be on the quayside for about 2 o'clock. However, I had no idea that Sunderland were live on Sky at 2:30. 2:30 or 2 o'clock.
Why can't you watch that in Newcastle?
Well, I was just about to say, of all the places to watch a Sunderland match, I don't think I want to do it in Newcastle.
Right.
So what I might do is actually watch the Sunderland match in Sunderland and then jump on the train. So it's only a 20-minute journey up to Newcastle. And then meet you after the Sunderland match is finished, which means I'm probably not going to get into wherever we're going to go before. We're going to Louis Liquor Store for the first game?
Yeah, definitely. So I talked to
so
Brad.
I'd probably go straight there and get there for about 5:30, I reckon.
Yeah, I thought we'd get there for about then. So I'm going to arrive with Connor Ryan about 2. Meeting Crystal, who's flying in from Italy, which is awesome. So she's going to meet us at the quayside. The plan is I'll check in the hotels at 3. Then we're going to go and find a bar en route to Louise. So there'll be a pre-meet somewhere, and then get to the liquor store for 5:30. Get set up for the first game, Lee. I am a little bit nervous because it's a second one of these that we've done. But the first one was the Vikings, and there wasn't many Vikings fans. I think there'll be more Chiefs fans, and I think there'll be some good light-hearted banter. But equally, the Chiefs do have the bragging rights. You know, they've got 2 Super Bowl wins. We're 0-4 in the last few meetings with them. But I am kind of looking forward to doing a joint venture. I'm looking forward to posting it on social media. I was tempted to do a WhatsApp group, like what Brett did in the gold mine, just basically in case people's internet connection's not working on Facebook Messenger. But basically, if you're coming to Newcastle, you're not sure what the plan is, drop me a message. And Dan, I'm not sure whether I can put myself through the Patriots-Jags game. Might have to watch the Sunderland game with Lee, but I don't know which will be worse, Lee. The Patriots game or the Sunderland game. I'm only joking.
So
buddy.
Again, I completely forgot that's Patriots-Jags in the afternoon as well.
Yeah. So, an apology to Power Brand Systems. We didn't get to play the advert today.
So I thought of that when JonnyDel's mentioned about his website being done by the same people as John.
I thought we would, I was going to say, so, you know we love Power Brand Systems. I'll give them a shout out now. They're doing Power Creators, but if you want to know more about them, and I promise next week we will play the advert, because they have been a big supporter of ours. And it is interesting that they're doing Johnny's website. They do John Chapman's website, so they're 49ers fans. They've been good enough to support. As Lee said at the start of the show, unfortunately, there's no Najee Carragher, there's no Gareth Ellis. I might get Gareth Evans in to replace him, slip of the tongue at the start, which Lee won't let me forget.
No,
but it will be interesting to see Gareth's thoughts on the game tomorrow. As he said last week, we're at that wonderful stage of the season, Lee, where unfortunately life takes over, and getting the 4 of us together isn't the easiest. But I had an absolute blast today, mate. What about you?
Yeah, it's been great. Been a good show. Definitely enjoyed having Johnny on.
Yeah, we'll have to get him on again. And he was so good with his time. And as Ty said in the chat, you were like, thank you for giving up your time. Don't mean to keep you. 6 hours. It felt like 6 hours, but in a good way, Ty, because some of those breakdowns were fantastic. We will be back next week, 8 p.m. British Standard Time, 12 noon Pacific, 3 p.m. Eastern. Guest yet to be announced, topic to be decided. Keep those notifications switched on. Tell all your friends about us. Like, subscribe, all that good stuff. And Lee, I will see you on Sunday, buddy. But all that is left for me to say is stay safe. Go Niners.
Bang, bang, down again.
We love the San Francisco 49ers deep in the heart. Like Joe Montana in the corner, deep Clark. Garrison Hurst, stiff farm going